The ancient Egyptians' religion significantly impacted their daily lives, differing markedly from modern beliefs and practices. Rather than worshiping a single deity, they revered a diverse array of gods and goddesses, allowing for individual preferences in religious devotion. Ordinary people played minimal roles in religious ceremonies, which were primarily conducted by the priestly class. Their concept of the afterlife was not an abstract spiritual realm, but a tangible existence mirroring earthly life. Furthermore, achieving eternal life didn't hinge on performing virtuous deeds, but on avoiding wrongdoing. Polytheism in ancient Egypt was a reflection of a world devoid of scientific explanations, spanning a 3,000-year history. Absent scientific principles, Egyptians attributed natural phenomena to supernatural forces. They viewed everyday occurrences and elements of nature through a lens of divine significance. For instance, the sun, a celestial body, was not just a cosmic entity, but the embodiment of Ra, the falcon god. Likewise, the Nile River wasn't merely a geographical feature, but the deity Hapi, depicted with unique symbolism like hermaphroditic traits, blending masculine and feminine elements. Egyptians relied on the benevolence of their gods to fulfill their desires. The nightly disappearance of the sun, for example, filled them with fear, leading them to believe it embarked on a perilous journey past enemies intent on preventing its return at dawn. To ensure its reappearance, they made offerings, prayed, and performed various rituals they thought might appease their gods. Without scientific explanations for natural phenomena, they attributed each event to a distinct god, endowing these gods with personal characteristics and physical forms. Though they didn't literally believe the sun was a bird or that a river had breasts, they used symbolic representations to make invisible powers tangible. They chose creatures or attributes that mirrored the abilities they wanted to symbolize. Birds for flight, breasts for the production of liquid. At the height of their civilization during the 18th dynasty, Egyptians revered over 1,000 gods. While some deities were the same entities worshipped under various names across different cities, the majority were distinct gods. Unlike later monotheistic practices, ancient Egyptians were not obligated to worship a single god. During childbirth, for example, multiple deities were responsible for various aspects of the process. Torre, a pregnant hippopotamus known as the Great One, safeguarded a woman throughout her pregnancy. Bes, a lion-headed male dwarf, protected the child after birth. Pregnant women wore Torre amulets around their necks for protection, similar to how Christians wear saints' medals. After giving birth, the new mother would wear a Bes amulet for the child's protection. Despite the presence of numerous gods for special occasions, Egyptians believed that a few principal deities ruled over everything, including the lesser gods. In Memphis, Egypt's administrative capital, priests credited the chief god Ptah, depicted as a human figure wearing a skull cap, with creating the world by first imagining it in his mind and then speaking it into existence. In contrast, Thebes revered another major god, Amun, known as the Hidden One. Amun's powers were so immense that he could not be visualized, but to honor him, he was represented as a man with a tall ostrich plume crown. To introduce order into their extensive pantheon, Egyptians organized their gods into a hierarchy based on their relative powers. Drawing on familiar structures, they grouped their deities into families of three: a father, mother, and son, the first trinities, where the chief god's supremacy was represented by his fatherhood. In Memphis, the chief god Ptah was paired with Sekhmet, a lioness, and their son Nefertum was depicted as a human with lotus plants on his head. Similarly, Amun's consort was Maut, a human with a lioness head, and their son Khonsu appeared as a human with a ram's head. A feature of polytheistic religions is that even if someone lived in Memphis and worshipped Ptah, they could still believe in Amun. Egyptians practiced their religion in ways quite different from modern practices, where attendance at a church, temple, or mosque is expected for communal prayer, recitation of shared beliefs, and ritual observance. The lives of ancient Egyptians were so intertwined with their gods that they didn't feel the need to set aside specific times for collective worship. Only on rare festival days did groups gather outside temples to witness holy rites. Otherwise, religious duties were carried out entirely by priests. Only they were allowed inside temples, and only they could perform the rituals. For the average Egyptian, being a believer required no active participation. An Egyptian temple was a dark, enigmatic place, considered to be the divine residence of a specific god or a family of gods, rather than a communal gathering spot for worshippers. Deep within the temple, in the innermost sanctuary known as the Holy of Holies, stood a sacred statue of the temple god. These statues, often bronze figures up to 2 feet tall inlaid with gold and silver, or sometimes made entirely of solid gold, were meticulously tended by specially trained priests as if they were living deities. Each morning, the priest would open the shrine doors, place food before the statue for its first meal, apply cosmetics around its eyes, perfume it, and dress it in white linen. Once these rituals were complete, they would close the shrine doors until the next rites. The average Egyptian might only see the cult statue on significant festival days, when people gathered in temple courtyards for a rare glimpse of their god's image as it was carried outside on gilded wooden litters. According to ancient texts, these cult statues were believed to nod their heads and speak. In reality, it is likely that priests used hidden mechanisms to move the heads or projected their own voices to simulate the god speaking. Regardless of the methods used, these statues were often consulted for their opinions on various personal issues. One ancient record even attributes the solving of a crime to the intervention of a statue. A papyrus in the British Museum recounts a theft that occurred in Thebes. During the Apet festival, when the grand statue of Amun was transported from Luxor to Karnak Temple, about 1.5 miles away, a man named Amun, who was responsible for guarding a nobleman's storehouse, approached his local statue to report that 5 colored shirts had been stolen while he napped. He addressed the statue asking, "My good and beloved lord, will you return their theft?" According to the papyrus, the god nodded very greatly. Amun then read a list of townspeople. When he mentioned the name of the farmer Amun, the statue nodded and declared, "It is he who stole them." The accused farmer was brought before the statue and denied the theft, appealing to the oracle of his own district, Amun of Teshenet, who confirmed the original statue's judgment. Amun continued to deny the theft and was taken to a third statue, Amun of Buchanan, in the presence of many witnesses, with the same result. Finally, back in front of the original statue of Amun of Pekenti, Amun was compelled to ask, "Was it I who took the clothes?" When the statue nodded affirmatively, he broke down and confessed. He was then beaten 100 times with a palm rib and made to swear that if he reneged on his promise to return the clothes, he would be thrown to the crocodiles. Cult statues even served as judges in legal disputes. In one case involving the ownership of a tomb, an oracle mysteriously provided a written decision. A workman named Amenemope claimed that a tomb belonged to his ancestor Hai, but necropolis officials questioned his claim when they found only an unmarked coffin without any funerary equipment or offerings. To resolve the issue, Amenemope turned to his local god. According to Amenemope, the god gave me the tomb of Hai in writing. A remarkable event. It is possible that 2 papyri, one supporting Amenemope's claim and the other denying it, were presented to the statue, which then indicated its choice by nodding. Another legal dispute, this time over a house, is documented on a pottery fragment housed in the British Museum. The builder Kenna had discovered an abandoned and dilapidated house, which he then renovated for himself. However, his neighbor, Mersekmet, objected to Kenna moving in, claiming that he had consulted the statue of Amenhotep previously and had been instructed that he and Kenna should share the house. In response, Kenna decided to bring the matter before the same statue with witnesses present. As the townspeople gathered outside the temple, the statue was paraded by the carriers of the god, and the assembled crowd heard what seemed to be the god's voice saying, "Give the dwelling to Kenna its owner again. No one shall divide it." It's possible that one of the priests voiced these words. In any case, Kenna was granted possession of the house. While temples typically employed groups of priests to care for cult statues, offer prayers, and manage temple affairs, in ancient Egypt's earliest history, Pharaohs took on the crucial role of maintaining divine order by serving as high priests alongside their royal duties. However, as Egypt's population grew, pharaohs found it increasingly challenging to personally fulfill all the duties and rituals required by the expanding number of temples. Consequently, designated individuals began to serve as substitutes, eventually forming Egypt's priestly class. These individuals, representing the pharaoh, were not necessarily deeply religious. Their distinction lay primarily in their assigned tasks compared to other government officials. In fact, many priests held secular professions like carpentry, scribing, or goldsmithing, as their temple duties typically spanned only 3 months annually, with 30-day rotations followed by 3 months of secular life. As temples expanded and became more complex, the need for dedicated personnel to oversee their operations led to the development of the role of the chief servant of the god. These individuals were entrusted with managing temple-owned resources such as farms, fields, livestock, and orchards, as well as supervising the temple staff. The position carried significant responsibility and authority, to the extent that parents often encouraged their children to pursue careers as scribes, as it was from this group that the chief servants of the god were typically selected. In larger temples, there were also second and third-ranking servants of the god, with a hierarchy of priests below them, each assigned specific duties. The priesthood in ancient Egypt comprised 2 main categories: those directly involved with the care of cult statues, and those responsible for various other religious duties. Wab priests, who had the highest standards of cleanliness due to their contact with the cult statue, maintained meticulous hygiene by shaving all body hair to prevent lice and exclusively wearing pure white linen garments. Their internal purity was also closely monitored, as they had to confirm they had not consumed fish, considered ritually impure, before handling the idol. On the other hand, scroll carriers were priests tasked with managing the sacred scrolls within the temple library, documenting donations and estate revenues, conducting inventories, and reciting prayers. Additionally, the temple staff included bakers, beer brewers, and cooks who provided offerings, as well as farmers, herdsmen, and estate overseers. When considering the vast number of these religious functionaries, along with their specialized roles, ancient Egypt boasted one of the most extensive bureaucracies the world had ever known. Priests received their compensation primarily from the pharaoh's resources, either directly or indirectly. When victorious pharaohs returned from their military campaigns with spoils like gold and other treasures, they would allocate a portion of these riches to the temples. This act served as both a gesture of gratitude for the god's support in their conquests and a means to maintain divine favor. Additionally, the acquisition of captives from foreign lands during conquest provided a significant labor force for temple construction and the management of temple estates. Moreover, pharaohs often enhanced the wealth of the temples by donating extensive tracts of their own lands, ensuring a steady income stream for the religious institutions. Over time, the holdings of Egypt's religious establishments grew to rival the vast wealth of the Roman Catholic Church in medieval Europe, each accumulating resources comparable to those of kings. Egyptian priests didn't invest much effort into addressing personal welfare matters or providing advice to individuals with personal issues. Their primary focus was on cosmic affairs, such as ensuring the sun's regularity and the fertility of the land. However, individuals seeking special blessings from the gods could arrange for offerings and prayers performed by priests on their behalf in exchange for payment. The only other personal service priests regularly provided to believers was interpreting their dreams, also for a fee. Some individuals even sought to spend the night near a temple deity, hoping to receive a divine message through their dreams. As all dreams were seen as prophetic, the crucial aspect was their interpretation, a service priests offered using special manuals. These manuals, authored millennia before the concept of an unconscious mind, did not consider that dreams might be influenced by the dreamer's life experiences. On the right side of a preserved dream book manuscript, there's a line that starts with, "If a man sees himself in a dream," followed by a horizontal line describing the dream and classifying it as either good or bad, along with an explanation. Here are a few examples. If a person dreams that he killing an ox, it is a good dream, and its interpretation is that enemies will be removed from one's presence. If a person dreams that he seeing a large cat, it is a good dream, and its interpretation is that a large harvest is coming to the dreamer. If a person dreams that he climbing a mast, it is a good dream, and its interpretation is that he will be suspended aloft by his God. If a person dreams that he, seeing one's face as a leopard, it is a good dream, and its interpretation is that authority will be gained over the townsfolk. If a person dreams that he is a dwarf, it is a bad dream, and its interpretation is that half his life is gone. If a person dreams by bare backside, it is a bad dream, and its interpretation is that he will soon be an orphan. If a person dreams by picking dates, it is a good dream, and its interpretation is that he will find food from his God. The interpretation of a dream in ancient Egypt depended more on its specific details than its overall theme. Egyptians believed that dreams were divine messages, and the symbols in dreams were considered universal, carrying the same significance for all dreamers, regardless of their identity. We've reached the end of today's video. I hope I've successfully conveyed the ancient Egyptians' perspective on religion, including their views on gods and worship practices. I hope you enjoyed this video and will continue exploring how the ancient Egyptians viewed religion in their lives after death in the next video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and like the video to stay updated with the latest content. Thank you for watching, and until next time, goodbye and take care.